And just like that, we're back. Happy Thursday, everybody. We're up in the nosebleeds. Shaq, Matt, Brian, we're all here ready to rumble. We got a big show, so I'm not going to go too crazy with the intro. NFL, franchise tag, some other news, players requesting trades, getting signed, all sorts of good stuff in the NFL. Like we said, football's king. It never dies. College basketball, we'll touch on some stuff. Brian and I have a little niche going on with one of the mid-major or low majors. So we'll get in that if you guys checked out our views from Section 400 bracketology. You'll see what we're talking about in just a couple minutes here. The premier segment, winners and losers of the week, sit right in the middle of the show as a nice, middle body. Like I said, and we'll end it off with probably the most anticipated MLB Divisional Preview for views from Section 400, and that will be the National League East preview. Why is it so anticipated? Phillies are my team. As you can tell with the ugly black Mets hat, Brian's team is the New York
the hat's
Mets.
More ugly than the Matt Harvey fathead sitting above me?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just the black Mets hat has bothered me for years. I don't know why, but for years it has bothered me. And there's a lot of things we can talk about with the MLB and their decision making on apparel and merch that they send out. But for whatever reason, the black hat has not been. I've not been a fan of it.
Do you like the purple hat more?
No, I don't like anything with the New York Mets, so that's probably just an underlying basis that I can sit on. And
I think the black hat's one of their better options, honestly. So I think it's just you're hating the Mets.
Yeah, I think it probably is, but we'll save that for the NL East preview. We'll try and keep it civil. You're gonna have to wait around and find out because it is at the end anchor another show. We'll get into the NFL headlines right after a word from SeatGeek.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best month on the sports calendar is finally here. Say it with me. This is March. And the only place to go for every NCAA tournament game is SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Views from Section 400 podcast. We love SeatGeek. We use it every time we buy tickets. The best part, if you're a first-time user, use code VIEWSFROM400 at checkout. That's VIEWSFROM400 at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. That's a free beer on us, a free popcorn, a free hot dog. If you're going to Mercedes-Benz Superdome, it might be like a free 5 meals for you and your family. Not Citi Field, unfortunately. But hey, $20 off your first purchase. Views from 400 for every NCAA tournament game. Hopefully you're watching Auburn in the Sweet 16, Final Four, Elite Eight, and eventually the Natty. Maybe some spring training baseball too. Code Views from 400. SeatGeek, your best night ever is waiting.
Yeah, the NFL still rolls along, even though we're a couple of weeks or almost a month now outside of the Super Bowl. Still dominating the headlines in the world of sports. The deadline for transition tag was today. We saw Trey Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs get tagged at $23.4 million. And another guy over on the Bengals, T. Higgins, $26.1 million franchise tag costs. I think that one's a little more of note because it is the second year they're doing this to him. So probably not too happy as football, these guys get injured and he's going to want a long-term deal. Joe Burrow said you don't let these guys walk out the door, but Bengals front office is tagging him up again.
He's getting the Saquon Barkley treatment. Well, at least the old Saquon Barkley treatment.
Yeah,
we'll get into Barkley in a second, Brian. Don't worry.
Yeah, right. Don't jump the gun. He's in the news too. But no, dude, this is exactly where we were last season with T. Higgins. He got the tag, wasn't super happy about it, wanted the long-term deal. I mean, that's what these guys want. They want the guaranteed money. They want the long-term deal. They want the security. That's not what the franchise tag offers. We saw what T. Higgins did last year. I think he did a little bit of a holdout. I think he, was a little hurt for a couple extra games, maybe. I think we're going to see that exact same thing again this season. I hope they figure it out.
The Bengals did they cut Sam Hubbard and then he decided to retire? Or did he just decide to, I don't know what is going on with that organization.
I don't know what happened there.
I tried to figure out he just retired. I didn't see he got cut. That's you saying that is the first time I'm hearing about that. Okay. But I saw that he retired, at 29. I think maybe the intention was they were moving on from him, and he didn't want to go anywhere else. He's a Cincinnati guy, born and raised. He played at Ohio State, so I can understand not wanting to leave and go to a new team and just calling it quits there. But he was a great player for them. I'm surprised that this is it for him.
Yeah, shades of Luke Kuechly, like retiring super early when he's still very good. I mean, obviously not Luke Kuechly good, but just weird.
Yeah, pre-30 retirement for a guy who, like you guys just mentioned, was a contributor on the field for them in a big way. I guess, you can never really put the pieces together, especially if it's kind of a quieter retirement. You didn't have an outgoing press conference of why, or there wasn't a very public situation on why he would retire, injury or things like that. So who knows what was going on? Like you said, Jack, maybe just Cincinnati guy. He already made some money in the NFL and maybe feels comfortable, getting that, making that last the rest of his life. I don't know. We can speculate all day long, but we did have some tags. T. Higgins and the other guy, I already forget his name because who cares about the Chiefs, Trey Smith over there on the offensive line. There is some other news out of Kansas City as the Bears trade for Joe. Wow, this is going to be a tough last name for me to pronounce. Tootie? 30?
I think you nailed it. Yep.
I think
Tootie.
It's Tootie because the R tries to throw you off, dude. And with Jack, my triple grammar checker on the show, official grammar checker of me, I really had to prep for that one.
Well, Matt, look, Brian did you an injustice here. There's not supposed to be an R in his name there.
Really?
Wow.
Yes, there's no R in Joe Tootie.
Wow. So Brian's evil menace behind all of this.
I saw you write that in the notes. I had to go Google it just to make sure I wasn't crazy. I'm like, since when is there an R in here?
Well, that's my fault then. I'm sorry.
Wow.
So
Work on me not falling for the evil menace work of Brian.
Even better job than you even thought, Matt. Congratulations. But yeah, dude, the Bears are active. Not only did they go acquire Joe Thuney from the Kansas City Chiefs, but they got Jonah Jackson from the Rams. They're really bolstering that offensive line for Caleb Williams.
We've been waiting for this for the last couple off seasons, I feel like, where we've been saying the Bears need to fix the offensive line. They need to protect who they need to protect. I guess, they didn't do it for Justin Fields. They're going to do it for the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams. And I think they're already in a better spot than they were last year. Got rid of the coach, obviously, and now bolstering. They have the weapons on offense. The defense was pretty solid last year. The Bears are gearing up to compete in an already loaded division. We can't forget about that.
Yeah, I'm excited when we do these NFL draft previews in a bit to have Colin on to see what he thinks because he's been through it as a Bears fan. And if they can protect Caleb, I want to say he can throw the football with protection, but he's got to prove it still.
Right. I cherry-picked it out a couple times last year. Caleb Williams, 250, Caleb Williams, 300-yard games on FanDuel. They were hitting, honestly, a lot more often than not. So I think the ability to pass the ball is definitely there. Got to protect them, and they just need to bring it all together, man. I mean, they're just, I don't know. What do you got, Jack?
I'm not totally sold on Caleb Williams yet, but I'll tell you one thing. We're not going to be able to see his full potential unless he gets protection like this. So I'm happy for Bears fans. Looks like they're going in the right direction with this. I think it's still interesting to see what they're going to do with Keenan Allen. He is a free agent. I don't know if they'll re-sign him or if they'll try to address that, with the draft or something like that. But hopefully we see Rome come into his own in year 2. DJ Moore stays focused. And, yeah, man, the Bears could compete in what you said, Matt, one of the best divisions, if not the best division in football.
Right, and I know it's the Bears are obviously in a way better spot, I think, moving forward and going forward for the near future and probably long term. If Caleb Williams is going to be your franchise guy, you'd expect at least 10 years minimum, goal being 15 years out of him. But
and if history's taught us anything, it's going to take Rome a while to build up. I think Rome's going to be a great receiver in the league.
Yeah, he definitely could be. And again, only going into his second year. But where I was going with that, Brian, and I always have to loop in your football team here. Who's had it worse over the last 10 years, Giant fans or Chicago Bear fans? I feel like it hasn't been talked about enough, but like the Bears have had it really, really tough.
It's definitely
the Giants.
It's definitely the Bears.
Dude, it's pretty
Is it
close.
definitely?
Well, okay. Well, look, if
The
your
Bears have won a
parameters are
playoff
like
game, haven't
the
they?
past
No, the
10
double
years,
doink.
Didn't they win the Nickelodeon game, or did they lose to the Saints? Because I remember Trubisky got the stupid Nickelodeon Most Valuable Player award, but I forget if that was voted because he
I
was
don't know.
so
I just
bad
remember
or
the
if they
double
won.
doink, and then still thinking Midwest. I thought it was the Bears, but it was actually the Vikings when they lost at Minnesota Stadium to Blair
Blair
Walsh,
Walsh, yep.
butchering the field goal. Thought that was the Bears for a sec, but it wasn't.
Yeah, because you had the double doink and you had the boat picture. Those are pretty,
Which
I
for the
think, close in terms of playoff debacles.
yeah, Jack, I'd love to hear where you at, man. You're telling me it's definitely the Chicago Bears.
well, if your parameters are 10 years, you might have a case for the Giants. But let's look at since 2000. The Giants
Oh,
have a pair of Super Bowls.
Oh, of course.
The,
Yeah,
we're
the
that's why I
talking
didn't
Bears
say
10
have
years.
that.
been the
Yeah,
Bears
that's
have
why I
been
didn't say
awful
that.
since 2000, but probably before that.
It-
I
They
can't
made a
think.
Super Bowl
I
when
can't.
Devin Hester returned the opening kick, and that was about the highlight of their
Yeah, did they? I don't
existence.
know if they scored a touchdown after that with Rex
Yeah,
Grossman.
when they lost to the Colts.
Oh no! I mean,
That was the highlight of their last 25 years.
the Jags made an AFC Championship. I mean, who cares, man? No one remembers you unless you're the
No,
champion, right?
I know. And I said 10 years. I
Yeah.
was very specific.
If we're talking 25, then yeah, definitely. I've had
It's
a
definitely
good
the
life as a
Giants.
Giants fan.
Yeah.
I've seen 2 Super Bowls, but the last 10 years, I think it's pretty close.
You just saw them at, when you were a kid. You didn't really get to fully celebrate it through liquid, uh, what's the word I'm looking for without saying alcohol? Liquid excitement.
What do you? Let's think about this though. Over the past 10 years, Giants fans versus Bears fans. Who on your team have you been excited about? I mean, the Giants. You immediately think Saquon, Barkley. Can we
Odell.
include? Can we think? Oh, yeah, include Odell in that last 10 years. Victor Cruz
Yeah,
probably too far
you can.
out.
You
But
can.
what do we have in Chicago?
I don't think I know the Bears rosters of the last 10 years like I would just because the Giants are in, the Eagles division, so it's easier to kind of know their roster. But I'm sure the Bears have had somebody. I
Hey,
mean,
Justin Fields, Mitch
yeah, I
Trubisky.
think Saquon takes it on top with that one. But I just think in general, the way the organizations have gone, it's been pitiful. So that's why I was just kind of thinking, and it's always nice to rag on the Giants when you can.
Yeah,
Definitely.
my
Brian, are you trying to think back to Jay Cutler and Alshon
dude,
Jeffrey?
my brain's like that gap between Alshon Jeffrey and Matt Forte and what we have now. I can't think of anyone.
It's been garbage.
But
Yeah,
I can't even think of a name.
So
Mitch Trubisky.
But who was their running back in 2020?
They had David Montgomery for a little while.
Oh, okay, yeah, they did have Monty. Yeah,
They
he was
had
good.
yeah, but they also
Just do
didn't use
Saquon.
him right. They had
Yeah.
3 guys that they would use, and it was stupid. They could have just let David Montgomery run away with it, and they had a 3-headed monster with some other guys.
all right, we don't need to go down the full blown rabbit hole here, but I would say it's close, and maybe it is the Bears in terms of that what you're saying, like the excitement of players, but both teams, I think, for the last 10 years have been pretty pitiful. I guess the Giants had the one year where they made the playoffs with Eli, kind of Eli's last year, right? 2016 was it when they were 12-4 and the Eagles beat them last game of the season to knock him out of the division or some shit.
It was his second to last year. His last year was when they benched him for Geno Smith.
That's right. Either way, both franchises have had a rough stretch the past decade, and at least what we know right now, the Bears seemingly are in the better position going forward in the near future. The Giants, are trotting out the regime that is well below 500 while in office. But yeah, some other news here. Obviously, the Bears solidify the offensive line. We'll jump into some Eagles news here as Saquon Barkley gets paid in the same year, extended in the same year that he was handed a contract. I don't know when the last time that was done, but he deserves every penny of that extension. I think it was 41 million over 2 years with 36 of it guaranteed. Rightfully so, rightfully deserved. You usually don't see that getting an extension in the same year that you got the contract, but like I said, rightfully deserved. And Zach Bond, the premier defensive standout, probably the best player other than Jalen Carter on the best defense in football last year. 3 years, 51 million. So very deserved there. The Eagles really solidifying and locking up some core key players that helped them on the Super Bowl run. Job's not finished, work's not done. There's still some stuff to do there.
Yep. Saquon, first ever running back to make $20 million plus a year in NFL history.
And it seems like it is so rightfully deserved after rushing for 2,000 yards.
Definitely rightfully deserved after what he did this year. Normally, we don't usually see running backs get paid, and Howie's a smart man, but clearly he has a heart, because this was thank you for winning us the Super Bowl. Here's some money.
James Cook was super excited on social media too, and all these running backs should be super excited because
it
resets
the market a little bit.
Helps the market.
It resets the market a little bit, and even if the next guy doesn't get 20 million, he's going to get a lot closer to it now because of what Saquon was able to do. So yeah, I don't blame them for being super excited. They definitely might have just increased. They definitely increased their chances of getting paid. Yeah, I don't know. Any reaction to the Bond signing? I mean, I think this was the most. Saquon was a little unexpected. I thought they would have maybe let him go another year and then did the extension. But Zach Bond, this was like a must re-sign after the year we saw him have. So just good move by the Eagles, doing what they needed to do.
I think both of these are very smart decisions for the Eagles organization. I mean, Bond and Saquon are both, locker room guys, captain sort of material, leaders. You got to re-sign those kind of guys, especially coming off of a win like you guys had last year. Got to keep that momentum going. No reason to let some of these premier guys go.
Howie Roseman's literally playing Madden. He's cutting guys to free up cap space and then signing the guys he wants a day late. It's annoying to watch as an Eagles hater. I'm sure you'd love it.
Good moves.
Absolutely do, man. He's manipulating the cap, and we know it went up an extra 20 million. So we'll see what he's able to wheel and deal with. Kind of going into some wide receiver cuttings. Christian Kirk of the Jacksonville Jaguars and Tyler Lockett, the guy who seems like he's played the last 20 years on the Seahawks. Both of those get cut. We'll get into Lockett in a second, but Jack, Christian Kirk, I mean, just an average guy on an average team. Your thoughts?
Look, there's nothing average about Christian Kirk. He is a great man. He was a true locker room hero. He was
talking about a football player.
Better man than football player. Yeah. Better man than football player, I think.
You know what? Maybe, Brian. But what I'll tell you is this guy was Trevor Lawrence's favorite target, in his 3 seasons with Jacksonville. So I've always had a lot of love for Christian Kirk. He was always a good receiver. Never, doing crazy stuff. We got the Antonio Browns and the AJ Browns and everybody else in the league. We just want. Okay, well, yeah, we don't want distractions like that. Whatever happened with Zay, I know he's playing in Arizona right now, so whatever happened with him, he's back, he's fine. But we don't want that kind of stuff. We want good guys. Christian Kirk was a good guy, one of Trevor's, like I said, favorite targets. So he will be missed. As a Jacksonville fan, I will miss him. He was not Brian Thomas productive, but he was definitely a good receiver for us. 100 catch receiver 2 years ago. So thank you, Christian Kirk. He'll get signed too. Like he is definitely still I won't say premier, but he is an upper level veteran slot receiver that can definitely help any team he goes to.
Definitely a veteran guy. Definitely a solid player. Like good, like solid. Like I'm not going to say, but premier. Was he ever a premier guy?
No, that's what I'm saying. He's not premier, but he's definitely
kind of alluded to premier. I'm not trying to jam up your words.
I'd like to bring
go back like 10 seconds. I said not premier, but a veteran.
I thought you said like a few years ago he's premier.
No. He had 100 catches, 1,000 yards for us. That is elite production. I'm not going to call him an elite wide receiver, but he has put up elite production for us.
We have some clips of Mr. Jack repeatedly saying Christian Kirk's a number 1 bona fide superstar wide receiver, and I'd like to find those and put them in here.
Well, you know what, Brian? All I have to say to that is Trevor Lawrence made him look that way.
I think this is you have Brian Thomas Jr. Go sign a different wide receiver. Go get DK Metcalf, who we'll get into in just a little bit. But I think it opens up space to go get somebody a lot better than Christian Kirk to pair with your young stud wide receiver. So, look, to put it simple terms, you weren't getting anywhere with Kirk. It just whether you think you were or not, nothing was going to happen with that guy on the Jaguars. So this is a good move.
It's a great move. It's a great move.
Yeah.
Saving us over $20 million in cap space.
Yeah.
Again, great guy, great for the locker room, great for Trevor. But, yeah, I mean, look, this is the business. You got to move on sometimes and sign new players. He'll go make some more money somewhere else, but we couldn't afford to have him on our team this year.
Is Gabe Davis still on the roster?
Yeah. Because he signed a couple-year deal, didn't he?
Don't know. He got, hurt. He, tore his ACL, so I haven't seen too many news on him. Too much news on him.
So he's not going to be there next year.
We should probably cut him, honestly. We should cut him. That is the answer to your question. We should cut him. I don't know if he'll be here or not.
Okay, yeah, then they definitely need to sign someone.
Yeah, they definitely do. And Tyler Lockett's on the market now because he got cut from the Seattle Seahawks, so a piece that they could go after. And I think we just need to take a moment of silence. Not really, but this guy's been doing it for so long at a high level and really just such a glue guy of a wide receiver room. And that's what we saw the last decade plus, man. Feels like almost 20 years. But, Tyler Lockett and the Seahawks are moving on.
How many years actually was it?
I don't know. But
anybody
dude,
have
it
that?
Literally feels like it was 20 years.
It does feel like it was 20 years, but I want to say
I don't think.
I think it was 12. But I was surprised to find out he doesn't lead the franchise in all-time receiving yards.
Who does? Steve Largent?
Brad Biletnikoff.
Steve Largent by a lot.
Steve Largent.
So Lockett
Largent was a beast.
Yeah, Lockett had 8,594, which is a lot of yards. Steve Largent had 13,089.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was, back in the day where it was just all about creating a little bit of separation and securing the catch, like zone routes. Like they just fed Steve Largent. So not surprised, but 13,000 is a shit ton of yards. But the more breaking news out of Seattle is their premier superstar, number one wideout, DK Metcalf, has requested a trade out of Seattle. So that's probably the number one premier guy on the market right now, unless I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing?
I was just going to say, as far as trades go, he's probably.
Well, he's on the market, right? They open. They're not going to keep him.
Yeah, no, he requested a trade, but doesn't necessarily mean that they have to deal him. They probably will. So I guess for the sake of your question, he's probably the number one option on the market.
Other than, and I'll get into it later, but I guess we missed Devontae Adams' cut as well. So he would be a better guy to say on the market. But I don't know. DK's younger.
I think I'd put DK above Devontae.
Yeah, I think I would rather sign DK as well. But, Devontae's there. You got Chris Godwin. There are some pretty decent wide receivers that are free agents.
Yeah. Also, sorry to go back to Lockett, but he played 10 years. I think we're mixing it up because Doug Baldwin and him were essentially the same guy.
Yeah. You know what? So there was a couple extra years in there.
Yep.
That kind of makes sense.
That's funny.
But I don't know where
Doug Baldwin,
DK.
Dude, that Seahawks run was legendary.
That was a great team,
dude. And only one Super Bowl out of it was crazy. We know they effed up big time against the Pats. We don't have to get into that.
That's why the Pacific Northwest will never win another championship.
Yeah, and look, Devontae Adams. I think once maybe they sign Devontae Adams, the Seahawks. I jotted down a couple teams that I think DK Metcalf makes the most sense with, just kind of scouting through it. The first team, I thought keep them in the same division and maybe go Arizona Cardinals. Makes sense to pair him with Marvin Harrison Jr. Same West, but AFC West, go to the Broncos, pair him with Courtland Sutton, give Bo Nix another option. And then the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love could use a standout starting number one wide receiver, so give them a true number one. Those are some teams that stood out to me. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think he would. The main reason he wants this trade is to go to a contender, right? He wants to go play some winning football. Not that the Seahawks are really that bad. They were like a 500 team last year. I think that's what he sees the Broncos at. He might see a little boost in the Packers, but especially in that division, they're not much more than a 500 team to me. And then the last one, who would you say, Matt?
You said the
I
Cardinals.
said the Cardinals, Broncos, and
Cardinals.
Packers. I think Cardinals, to what you're saying, probably not, just because
Yeah.
they're probably a little worse than the Seahawks. But you had DK Metcalf. The Broncos, I think, are right there competing with the Chiefs for that division.
It's definitely a huge upgrade for that
They
team.
should have beat them last year on the field goal that they completely botched.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say they're going to lose that division until they do. What's it, like 12 years now they've won it?
Yeah, and I'm not upset. I said compete. I didn't say win outright. Let's not twist words here, Brian.
Yeah, okay.
And adding DK Metcalf gives you a huge boost to compete.
It
does.
definitely
I think the Packers fit is the best there. If you
Yeah,
put
it gives
them
him a true number one. True number
Yeah.
one with Jordan Love, who you want to talk about a guy who airs the ball out and throws the ball. Jordan Love can air the ball out.
I think I'm surprised you're not as high on that trade as me and Matt seem to be, Jack, because I think that puts them at like a 12-5, 17 games, 12-5 team.
I think he would look really good in like the Green Bay home jersey at Lambeau Field too. Some aesthetically just seems like it fits really well.
maybe
Metcalf with the Lambeau leap, like
In the
seems like
snow
it would
with the
work.
mask and
Yeah,
Yeah,
seems
that'd
like
be-
it would work.
maybe I just don't have a lot of faith in Matt LaFleur to use him properly. Maybe that's what it's stemming from. I don't see him working out in Green Bay.
Random
Come to
question
Jacksonville.
alert. Random question alert time. See, that's why you're not balled in. Random question alert time. Who is the better NFL head coach, not based on history, whatever, just right now, leading your franchise, better NFL head coach? Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle, but it's close.
Shanahan.
Actually,
Shanahan.
it's,
I just
it's,
thought
it's
saw
not that close. I would definitely rather have Kyle.
I saw a lot of people on Niners Twitter the other night absolutely bashing Kyle Shanahan and wanting him out and saying that we're not going to win shit without with him still at the helm. So I thought it might have been a little bit closer. But that
His
just
entire team was in the
didn't see
hospital
that,
last
so-
year.
He
What?
seems cursed.
Yeah, his entire
Yeah.
team was in the hospital last year. He couldn't do
Exactly.
anything.
So does that play into maybe LaFleur as a little bit of a
See, when I look at LaFleur, and I hope this isn't too controversial, but when I see LaFleur and I see Shanahan, I see LaFleur as like Shanahan's little brother. That's what I see there. And then I see like Sean McVay
they kind of look alike, don't they?
sitting on top of all of them. But I do they look alike? I don't know. They're all like 40 and got a little
slim
rough.
white dude with a little 5 o'clock
Some white
shadow.
dude with the stubble, and they wear the hoodies. I don't know. I thought that'd be a better question than I think was hoping you guys would have been a little more toward. But yeah, I guess Shanahan. He's got the better team, right? Maybe
Well-
not. I mean, the Packers made the playoffs, and the Niners didn't.
Well, yes, that's true for this season. I think we've seen Shanahan much more successful like down the stretch. I feel like LaFleur has hit this first round or second round wall. We've seen Shanahan in multiple NFC championships. We've seen him in Super Bowls. I mean, he's famous for choking away multiple Super Bowls at this point. So that's why I think he's cursed. But I still would rather have him than LaFleur. LaFleur hasn't proven to get out of like has LaFleur made an NFC championship game yet?
Yeah, they have.
They did with Rodgers.
I thought they did. How long has he been there? He's kind of been there for a while.
I don't think they have.
Since McCarthy, right?
I guess was McCarthy the one who lost to Seattle in 2018 in the
Yeah,
NFC Championship game?
yeah.
Or was that even an NFC Championship game? I don't
That
know.
might have not have been. Yeah, I don't think the Packers have been there.
Yeah, I think the divisional round is probably the furthest they got.
Because they're always in the wild card, and sometimes they win a game, but I can't remember them winning 2 playoff games in a season.
And lost. Yeah, he lost to Shanahan in the NFC Championship in
Okay, so back to back.
2019.
Yeah, 2019,
Back to
2020.
back. All right. So you've been there twice.
Right, but he
They didn't do
lost
anything with
both of
it.
them. Yeah.
Both to
And
Shanahan. Yeah, but I
those
mean that's
Second
still
one was
bigger.
Brady.
That's still bigger than a first round wall. Yeah,
right,
sure,
but
it's not the Super Bowl, but
that was also
a
with a
first
Hall of
round wall
Fame.
is like you're not getting out of the first round, and we do have coaches that are like that.
That's
Anybody who coaches the Cowboys.
That's true, but I think we have to remember like this was also Aaron Rodgers' team at that time.
Of
Aaron
course.
Rodgers was the one who got McCarthy out of town, even though we say it wasn't him, it was. And then LaFleur comes in almost like a Darvin Ham LeBron situation where LeBron's running the show here. I think that's what Rodgers was doing, and it got enough friction to the point where they said we're done with you. And once they did that, and they don't have Rodgers back there anymore. I mean, I think that's where we see this dip where he can't get out of the first or second round.
Yeah, and we weren't as toward here. I'd probably lead Shanahan as well. I think I just thought it'd be a fun question because a lot of the Niner fans not happy with Shanahan. I think it's probably more of they think he's cursed. But let us know in the comments below who's a better head coach, Kyle Shanahan or Matt LaFleur. Maybe we'll make it a little question of the day tomorrow as well, just to have some fun with it and maybe get some Niners Twitter uh, riled up. We'll start a little fan base war between the Packers and Niners for no damn reason at all.
We know how
But
much
yeah,
Niners Twitter loves us.
oh yeah, we're big fans over there on the West Coast, in Santa Clara, not
Yep.
San Fran. You know how they like to do it, but that's pretty much the NFL headlines. It's never going to be short, right? It's football is king. It's what we do here, and that is what we have to discuss. And I'm sure next show we'll have a whole grouping of headlines. Jack's not even done. What do you got,
I'm
Jack?
not done. I got one more for you guys. Shout out Gardner Minshew. Got cut today from the Raiders. Hopefully he lands somewhere. He's a damn fine backup quarterback.
He will.
He'll probably go somewhere.
Big vibes guy.
Was he in Vegas?
He was
Still?
he was in Vegas and he just got cut today.
Come to
They
New
prefer
York.
they prefer Aiden O'Connell over Gardner Minshew.
I don't know if that's what it means. I know obviously Gardner Minshew is a lot more senior. He probably demands more cap space. I would
Yeah, I
guess.
mean neither of those guys should be leading franchises into next season, but it is what we have there. Nice little shout out for Gardner Minshew, who was on the Eagles for a short period of time too. So special place in our heart there. Yeah, college basketball time. We are in that lull period of, it's the end of the major power conference seasons. We kind of have everything wrapped up. Next week is when it'll really crank up, and then obviously the week after is March Madness when it'll really hit a high gear. So yeah, some mid-major tournaments going on. I don't know if Brian has any updates on those. The Ohio Valley's kicking off in the first round. The A Sun is the furthest along. Yeah, what do you guys got?
Yeah, we'll have an A-Sun champion on
This
Sunday.
weekend. Yeah, this weekend.
And
A-Sun will probably be the first to fall, I think.
yeah, you mentioned it in the little intro here, but for the first time ever in our bracketology, we could not come to a decision on who would win the A-Sun.
We could have come to agreement, right? Sometimes Brian likes a team and I might not like him as much, but I'll give it to Brian. And sometimes I like a team and Brian doesn't like him as much, but he'll give me the nod. But in the Atlantic Sun Conference, for the first time ever, as Brian said, we have the Lipscomb. Good Lord, I should probably know their mascot. Maybe the Lions and the North
Alabama is the Lions.
Is the Lions. The Lipscomb. Oh, dude, I saw the name today, and it's pretty gross.
Oh, they can't win this. It's not a grammatically correct mascot. They're the Bisons.
The Lipscomb Bisons, dude. Yeah.
The plural of bison?
I don't know. But the Lipscomb Bisons and the North Alabama Lions. Brian is stuck on North Alabama. I really like Lipscomb and what they can do. Brian, state your case as to why North Alabama is going to win this conference tournament.
In these, I always lean towards the best player on the court. And I wholeheartedly believe that North Alabama guard, Jakari Lane, is the best player in the A-Sun Conference. And he's a guard, and we know guard play wins in March. That's why I'm leaning North Alabama here. And I kind of just have a soft spot for Alabama basketball this year. I want to see as many Alabama teams get in as possible. Jakari Lane played well against Auburn. This whole North Alabama team was kind of in the game against Auburn back in December, I believe they played. I like North Alabama.
What does kinda in the game mean?
Yeah, great question, Matt.
It was a single digit lead for most of the first half.
Okay. What was the final score, if you know off the top of your head?
I believe Auburn won by 28.
Okay. All right. At least it's not like 40.
Yeah, it's not Vermont losing by 50 points.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. That's fine. You talk about the best player on the court. I think Lipscomb has the best player in the conference. That's Jacob Ognisevich. 20.3 points per game and shooting over 40% from three. Also a guard, hybrid forward, so maybe not a true guard. But the other thing with Lipscomb, they have five players averaging double digits this year. That's pretty hard to do. So they're pretty deep. Double digits in college is very good. They got five players averaging double digits. They most recently, 2 weeks ago, beat North Alabama at home 75-63. That's a 12-point win on their home court. If these two teams face off in the Atlantic Sun Championship, it will be played at Lipscomb because Lipscomb is the 1 seed. North Alabama is the 2 seed. Lipscomb won by 12 points last time they played at Lipscomb. The home court advantage is huge in March. They don't get it in the tournament, but the home court advantage is going to be huge. Brian talked about North Alabama or whatever having the great player. Lipscomb's right there with him having a 20-plus point per game guy, and they got five other guys who average double digits as well. So Lipscomb, not to be taken lightly, and the number one overall seed in that conference.
Yeah, they are deeper, which scares me, especially as a road game.
That was what I wanted to highlight as well. You guys both stated your case. I like deep teams when it comes to this time of year in basketball, especially tournament runs. Man, it's not just one game. You got to make the run. So give me Lipscomb. I'm with Matt on this. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, it is a chalky pick, so we're not surprised by Jack's decision there.
You got five guys averaging 10 points a game.
You're absolutely right.
One of them at 20 points a game. This sounds like Auburn's basketball team.
Yeah, I mean they're five guys that are, five guys that are averaging, and I forget the complete breakdown, but I think one of the guys was closer to like 14 points. Obviously, the 20-point guy, they had an 11-point guy, and then one guy was right there around 10. So again, deep team. They'll be the A-Sun Championship will be at Lipscomb, so that arena will be 99.9% Lipscomb fans. Besides maybe the six parents that sit behind the North Alabama bench is what you'll have on the Lipscomb home court. So yeah, I think a lot of it's favoring Lipscomb, but hey, they both play tonight. North Alabama plays, I forget, maybe Jacksonville, and Lipscomb plays another team. So. Oh, Queens, that's right, who just knocked off FGC on the road. So a little bit of road experience for Queens going into Lipscomb. That'll be an interesting game. And I really just hope it isn't done and dusted. I hope these two teams can face off in the championship so we can have a little bit of fun with that. And if it really push comes to shove, maybe I'll do a little live show before that actual championship game. But we'll wait and see until this weekend we get that. But yeah, you guys, we could talk about what people actually care about. Auburn got smoked on the road the other night, but nobody really cares because they already won the conference.
Yeah, second time I'm bringing up our guy Colin today, but he said they spent too much time at Sky Bar. And I think that's exactly what happened, especially because everyone thinks Auburn's like a bunch of 30-year-olds running around. But yeah,
that was a brutal trap game. I mean, after winning the SEC, we just didn't show up to play in A&M. Quick shout out to Views from Section 400 writer Nick Stewart for going to the game, taking some pictures for us, getting some pictures of the Aggies stadium there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a bone to pick with Nick, though.
Why?
I think he's a bad luck charm.
He might be a bad luck charm. I mean, I didn't know he was at that game until I saw it, but. Of course, that's like the one game that we lose, dating back a couple months now.
Well, it's also interesting because I thought this would be a game where maybe, they don't need to have all the starters playing and, Janai Broom 32 minutes, Pettiford 35 minutes, Baker Mazara 34 minutes, Miles Kelly 31 minutes. I mean, they unloaded the full team. Like, this is who you'll see in March for the Auburn Tigers in the tournament. So that's number one. Number two, has there been any game all year where the Auburn Tigers have lost the first half and the second half? They were outscored in the first half 40-34 and outscored in the second half 43-38. I think that's something to note.
I think Florida maybe, but definitely not
Florida.
not Duke, not Iowa State. No, I mean, we only have a few losses, so it can only be those ones. But no, I don't think that. Maybe Florida.
Yeah, it's also
you don't see that often at all with this Auburn team.
No,
ever.
One of the reasons you saw those big minutes, though, Denver Jones was out, and you know how much I love Denver Jones. Ja'Kai Howard got a good run, and he looked good.
12 minutes, 4 and 4 in 12 minutes.
Yeah, I think I'm not concerned about them losing this game, especially because Texas A&M shot very well, and they're an anemic offensive team. So it was just kind of the senior night outlier.
Agreed.
I am slightly concerned with Janai Broom.
Yeah, he didn't look good. 8.7 rebounds in 32 minutes. That's not a stat line you expect from him, from a guy who's supposed to be the Wooden Player of the Year.
His last two games, he has 17 and 13. You expect that in one game from him.
Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he's 100%. You know, we might be entering that time of the season where not a whole lot of people are, but ever since that injury, it feels like it was like almost 2 weeks ago now. But you know, he got hurt and he came back earlier than he probably should have, and he's just been grinding through it. And I mean, I like to see that out of our guys. You love the heart, but you want to make sure he's going to be available for the most important games. Yeah, I got to shout out Todd Pettiford real quick, because even though at pretty much zero, I don't think we led for a single minute of that game. I think we were down the whole time. Yep. But
which is just unheard of with this Auburn team.
This season, absolutely unheard of. But even so, even when we were down like 15 points at one point, Todd Pettiford just dropping 3-point bombs from left field kept me in this game thinking we might still have a shot. It didn't come to fruition, but dude, Todd Pettiford, man, shout out.
Yeah, it's important to note that A&M went up 12-2, and it was about a tie throughout the rest of that, which I know, like, obviously it's whatever, but I have a bone to pick. Jimmy Dykes has been getting a lot of slack for his bad announcing on ESPN, and I try not to get mad at announcers because they try their hardest, and unless they like mess up a stat like Carl Ravitch did, I'm not going to really get mad at him. He said something about Todd Pettiford after he missed a three. He said Todd Pettiford has been hot and cold. It was a bad shot. He needs to stop trying to shoot the basketball. For the most part of that second half, he was the only offense Auburn had. And that three that he missed after Jimmy Dykes said that, his line dropped to 5 for 7 from three. And he said he was hot and cold.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can say hot and cold about a lot of people on this team, a lot of people in this game. But Todd Pettiford has not been cold legitimately the entire season. I don't think he has been cold the entire season. This guy just makes shot after shot, big game after big game. That's a crazy statement. I'm with you, Bri.
Yeah, he's so good. I really hope Denver gets back. And honestly, with Auburn, just go beat Bama, lock up that number 1 seed, and then rest Janai Broom for the SEC tournament. You don't have to play in the SEC tournament. You could send out Jaheim Hudson, the walk-ons, and Chris Moore, and let Ja'Kai Howard do his thing, and just lose to Kentucky in the first round. You're still going to get the number 1 overall seed if you beat Bama. There's no need. Just give everyone some rest.
So go all out for the last game. They're already the SEC regular season champions, and who gives a shit from there until you get to the field of 68? Field of 64 is where they'll be.
Yeah, just get it done. Get it done.
Just get it done. That's all the time we have for college basketball. It is now time for the premiere segment of Views from Section 400. Don't go anywhere. NL East preview coming up in just a bit. But the winners and losers of the week will get going right now. The winners and losers of the week, as I said, premier segment, views from section 400. Guys go around, winner of the week. Guys go around and say who lost the week. I don't know who wants to start it up for us. Jack, you look like you're ready to go. Who won the week for you, man?
Oh, I'm so glad you guys are starting with me. So, in light of us talking about the NL East today, I figured, sparks are going to fly, might get you guys going early. My winner of the week is going to be the Dallas Cowboys. Zach Martin, he is going to be added to their Ring of Honor, as well as CeeDee Lamb restructured his deal to create $20 million in cap space. Your thoughts as Giant and Eagles fans here? You guys scared about the Cowboys coming back this year?
No, they hired a puppet as a head coach. They already losing Zach Martin is a huge loss. I'm not scared of Dak Prescott, especially after him jinxing them by saying that they're close to winning a Super Bowl. No, not worried about it.
That organization is in turmoil. All of Dallas is in turmoil. I'm not worried about the Cowboys.
I'm not worried about the Cowboys. I'm almost worried about the Giants in 10 years more than I'm worried about the Cowboys ever.
Wow. Okay. Brian, what about you? You think you guys are in a better position or the Cowboys?
I said 10 years, but Brian, go.
That's fair.
I think the Giants and the Cowboys are both in terrible positions, but the Giants, at least I guess the Giants front office can admit they're in a terrible position, but
No, they can't.
so I guess they're both just suck. But I'm not worried about the Cowboys sucking less than the Giants. I
But
think
the
they're both going
Cowboys
to be
will
terrible.
have expectations again this year for whatever reason because they're the Cowboys, America's team, and I say that in such sarcasm. Um, it's they'll just have more expectations. So that's why it's like with the Giants, everybody like is just it's a circus with the Giants, and it might be a circus with the Cowboys, but for whatever reason, the expectations get put on them every year.
What pick did
Definitely
they
the circuits
trade
with the Cowboys.
for? Was it a second round pick or a third round pick for Jonathan Mingo? And the Commanders just got Debo for a fifth.
I don't know, man.
Like that organization's just a train wreck.
Dude, like Jerry Jones has like dementia, Alzheimer's, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, not making a joke, but like the guy's 85 years old, like he's running a national football, like he's going up against these sharp, young, like in Jack's case, 34-year-old GMs. This guy doesn't have an edge. He might have 40 years ago, but he doesn't right now.
And that's actually crazy. When Jerry Jones was Blackstone, is it Blackstone? I got to learn this guy's name. Goldstein? Your GM?
Gladstone.
Oh, my
Gladstone?
GM? Gladstone. James Gladstone.
Yeah, when Jerry
Learn the
Jones
name.
it was James Gladstone's age. James Gladstone's parents probably weren't even born yet. That's crazy. And they're both in the same position running an NFL franchise.
Yeah, and what does Jerry Jones have to show for it? Again, he is, he's the one who's the boss of the GM position, and he holds the GM position. So,
Well, I think he's worried about making him a lot of money, and that's what he did. But he didn't win
you don't
anything.
think he's worried at all about winning a Super Bowl, Jerry Jones? You don't think he wants to? I
think
feel like
he's
all that pressure of year in and year out, sure, the business, making the money, this, that, and the third. I feel like at some point, all that hype and pressure, money's great, I know, but he's got to want to win something.
I think now he really just wants to win one before he passes
Croaks.
away here. But I think for most of his tenure, he was just worried about making them the most profitable franchise in the league.
Yeah, so whatever. Fuck the Cowboys.
It's a good way to end it.
Yeah, what do you got, Bry?
Yeah, I'm putting this as my winner, and I guess I'll just say it's the legacy of this show, but it is sad. Around the Horn. I grew up watching Around the Horn with PTI on ESPN's Happy Hour. And the show's ending on May 23rd. 23 years, 4,900 episodes. It was what I put on every day after elementary school, back when ESPN was actually good. Woody Page always had the chalkboard in the background. He was the inspiration for the whiteboard I have in the background of our show. Just so many, like back when ESPN had actual sports journalists that loved sports instead of just talking heads. And I love Pat McAfee. I love Stephen A. sometimes. But I don't know, like Jay Adonde, Max Kellerman was on Around the Horn, Mina Kimes started on Around the Horn, Kevin Blackstone, Frank Isola, Pablo Torre, Bomani Jones, Diana Rossini, like all these people that are just now like writers that I grew up watching or reading, and just it's sad. It's sad to see Around the Horn go.
Yes, a staple of ESPN for 20 plus years, as you just mentioned. And watching it, wasn't as much of a fan as it sounds like you were, but definitely something I remember growing up as a kid. And, it's always sad to see those things when you were a kid come to an end, because that just means you're getting really old.
Yeah, I got to be honest, Brian. Part of my what was it? Part of the interruption.
Yep.
Yeah, that was always a good one, but Around the Horn, I was never really a big fan of. Got to be honest.
And that's fine. I loved both of them, and I have a lot of memories of just watching them coming home from school. And maybe we'll have to rename it something, but maybe over the summer here when the sports calendar is getting low, we bring on some of the writers and some guests, and we do a little Around the Horn spinoff. I think that'd be fun.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. But where I think I didn't like it is it was always at whoever that was the host, Jim Rome, at one point.
It was Max Kellerman to start, and then I can't believe I'm blanking on Tony
Raiola. The same
Raiola?
guy for 10 years.
No, that was the
Yeah, but either way, that's not my point. My point is whoever the host was, right? The guy kind of directing the call the shots. It was like at his discretion on who got the points, right?
Yeah, the point system made no sense at all.
The point system was horrible. So I don't know if that was just there to be there.
Tony Reali.
Yeah, but just the points, that's why the show didn't mean anything to me, because it was like, someone would make a point and, his point would get 4 points and the other point would get 2 points. And it's all at the end of the show, this guy wins because the guy running the show was pressing a button, giving out random points, which is why and maybe that was just all a farce. And really the whole point was to listen to what they're saying and talking about the stories, and the point system was just there to be there. But I don't know. It seemed super fake and phony that this guy was just dishing out random points.
Yeah. I think that's what made it fun for me, at least, is like these writers were so objective with their takes and stuff, and then Tony Reali would just like be completely subjective and like give some guys points for this, and that would annoy the panelists, and they would get fired up about it.
Dude, that is why I hated the show. That is exactly why I hated the show. Is because I'm trying to sit there and be like, oh, good point, give you a point for that. But here we go, giving him 6 points. We're giving her 10 points. This guy -5.
And then they get annoyed because they get subtracted points, and you put them on mute, and then you'd see them yelling, and you couldn't hear what they were saying because they were muted. It was so good.
Well, so good for you and so annoying for Jack and I. So I guess that's why they had fans and non-fans. But yeah, man, whatever. End of an era. And like I said, my main takeaway is, holy shit, I'm getting old. But yeah, good winner of the week, I guess. Wait, was that a winner or loser, Brian?
Yeah, I didn't know where to put it. I called it a winner
I
just
feel
because
like
of the
you
legacy.
just gave us your loser while we were going around the horn on winners.
No, I put it in my winner because of the legacy of the show.
Okay.
I more just wanted to
They had a
touch on
great run, yeah. They had a great run, and we can leave it at that. But my winner of the week came this week, and it is a shout out as Villanova basketball is in the gutter. Villanova legend Colin Gillespie going off in the fourth quarter to seal the Suns' 23-point comeback. If you guys don't know, this guy's been not a journeyman, but a two-way contract man of the NBA for his pretty short NBA career. And he came in the fourth quarter. His fourth quarter stats, 10 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, hit a couple nice threes, hit a couple nice floater layups, dapped up KD in the middle of midcourt after a timeout and an explosive run by the Suns. So, yeah, a nice shout-out for Colin Gillespie. Probably his best game ever as an NBA pro. So, yeah, pretty much went off in the fourth quarter. 10 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. So, got to give a shout-out to the Villanova legend who is – I didn't even know he was still in the league. So, props to him.
Here's a question for you. Better professional career so far, Gillespie or his high school classmate, Kyle Pitts?
Well, Pitts is longer, right? They didn't get drafted at the same time.
Yeah, I think Pitts is a few years longer.
Pitts has some years.
and he's done less with them. So I'm going with Gillespie.
Yeah, Pitts has been on the field more and been more right. Like Gillespie was an undrafted guy, I think, and Pitts was a top 5 pick. So, um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's I not to rip on you, Brian. I think that is a horrible question. I have no idea.
It's tough. I just wanted to give. I think it's kind of crazy. They both went to Archbishop Wood. Shout out
Yeah,
Doylestown.
yeah, good. Well, Warrington, but or Warminster, but
Yeah,
same thing.
close enough.
Close enough. To give an answer to your question for the spirit of being a good sport, I'll say for now Kyle Pitts just because I think he contributed more to a bigger cause, and even though that cause, like he had to have had one decent year, no, and like Kyle Gillespie,
He
his
had 1,000
best,
yards.
yeah, that's what I mean. He's had one decent year. Like Gillespie hasn't come close to having a year where he averages 18, 5 assists and 3 rebounds. Like he hasn't even come close to doing that. I mean, this was his best game ever, and he had 10 points in the fourth quarter. So I think if you really nail it down, probably Pitts has contributed more. I mean, 1,000 yards takes the cake immediately.
Yeah, I should have included the college careers. Then maybe it's a more of a.
I think it's a lot closer. I think it's a lot closer because Gillespie's a national champion.
Yeah, and Pitts was like good at Florida, but they didn't do anything.
They didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't think they were barely a 500 team when he was there.
Right. And like I said, Gillespie was a national champion, so that definitely would have brought it a lot tighter. And maybe even give the nod to Gillespie just because of the title. But yeah, good stuff there. Got to give the Villanova Legends a shout out since it is a pitiful program now. Jack, we'll jump over to you for the loser of the week. What do you got?
Yeah, no. So this is going to be self-deprecating. I'm going to make myself the loser of the week. I was today years old when I found out that Shaquille O'Neal was born in New Jersey. Did you guys know that?
No.
No.
All right. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better that I didn't know that. But look, I'm the Jersey guy here. I didn't know that Shaquille O'Neal was born in New Jersey. And
Yeah,
it also happens to be his birthday today. So
I think
shout out to
that's
Shaquille O'Neal.
fine. I wouldn't call you a loser for not knowing that, for what that's worth.
yeah. I always just assumed he was from Louisiana because of LSU.
Yeah, right? No, I did too. I figured he was from the South. Chuck goes
Yeah.
to Auburn, being a Southern, an Alabama guy. I kind of just assumed that Shaq went to LSU because he was a Louisiana guy. But here I am finding that out. And I don't know if you guys heard me or not, but Shaquille O'Neal, his birthday today, when you guys are all listening to this.
How old is he?
He's turning 53, excuse me.
Huh?
Yeah, dude. Props to that. But Brian, what's your loser of the week here?
Yeah, I don't know. I had one, but I also want to bring up LeBron here. So I'll go with Father Time as my loser. I think I forget I always grab these stats from Twitter and don't credit the person I saw it from because I forget their name and then lose them. But LeBron, of course, 50K points. LeBron when JJ Redick was at Duke averaged 27, 7, and 7. LeBron when JJ Redick was an NBA rookie averaged 27, 7, and 6. LeBron when JJ Redick finally became an NBA starter, 27, 7, and 6. LeBron when JJ Redick was a 15-year veteran in the NBA, 25, 8, and 8. LeBron when JJ Redick was an analyst / podcaster like us, 26, 8, and 7. And LeBron with JJ Redick as an NBA coach, 25, 9, and 8. Father Time just does not stand a chance.
No, I mean, the guy is the Tom Brady of basketball. We've already seen this in the NFL. I think that's why maybe we're not as shocked as we should be. But yeah, this guy's unbelievable.
It really is, and not taking anything away from football players, but a pocket passer like Tom Brady playing at this age, doing what he had to do versus LeBron James, carrying an Olympic team, carrying the Lakers. I know he's got a little bit of help with Luka now, but it's incredible. I don't think we'll ever see something like this again. I really don't.
He outlived around the horn.
Yeah, Father Time came for Around the Horn, part of my take, NFL Red Zone. It came for Inside the NBA, but it's got nothing on LeBron James.
No, and it's seems like it's not slowing down. I mean, sure, like you're just waiting for like, oh, like it's going to slow down, an injury's going to happen, this, that, or the third, and it, at least for right now, maybe he's not like he was 10 years ago, where it was like just him on the court could solely will them to winning a title. I don't think he has that power anymore that he had 10 years ago, but I mean, still an effective player in the NBA, which, not a lot of people can say they are.
And that brings me to my other loser, which I'll do quickly, but he has Luka Doncic now. And my other loser is going to be the city of Dallas because there's a dust storm that is covering the city and make it look like hell. And I blame Nico Harrison.
Yeah, they send off Luka Doncic, and AD gets hurt, and Kyrie done until next year. So they, ugh, that
If
guy's not
I'm
leaving his house for a couple months.
Yeah, if I'm in the city of Dallas, I'm blaming Nico Harrison for freaking everything. He's the reason I have to pay taxes this year. I mean, screw this dude.
Yeah, it's poor Kyrie too. Crying during taking the free throws. Just getting
Yeah, I
no
mean,
help.
it's just the Mavs going from like making the finals and like being set up with Luca and to make moves into like instant turmoil, man-made turmoil, is a tough look. But I'll jump to my loser of the week here. It happened this week or over the weekend, and it's going to be Brian's good friend Ty Jerome getting fined $25,000 by the NBA. He's only on a 2-year, $5 million deal, 2.5 million annual value. So, not that 25,000 is going to hurt him that much, but it's a pretty good chunk of change for a guy that's not on like a supermax contract. I thought it was especially interesting because he was specifically calling out referees by their first name. I'll quote what he said. He said, "I thought the refs were really bad tonight, especially Natalie, who's Natalie Sago, NBA referee. She was really bad," Jerome said. "Stuff like that happens. They kind of lose control of the game, and you just got to keep your head. I thought that first half was ridiculous. Third quarter was horrendous." He says you got to keep your head, but he absolutely unloaded and crashed out. Calling an NBA ref out by their first name, I think, is just ridiculous. And honestly, $25,000 seems pretty light for doing that. I thought the NBA was going to put the hammer down on him for his comments after the game.
Yeah, he should sell that national championship ring because he wouldn't have it if not for the referees not calling his double dribbles. So look in the mirror, Ty.
Look in the
Yeah,
mirror, and the crazier thing, and Jack, I'll let you get your thing in just a sec, but I forget his stat line I'm looking for, but they won the game in overtime. It's not like they lost and he's calling the refs. Like they won the game in overtime, and he had a great stat line, maybe 20 plus points, some rebounds. So like his stat line was good, and his team won in overtime, and he still was furious. I don't know. It was just loser of the week for me.
yeah, I saw something about there was 70 plus free throws in that game or something like that, and that's why he was saying like, you can't get any momentum. No one wants to see the whistle get blown every 2 seconds. I mean, he's not wrong about any of
No.
that, and also to call out a ref by name, just a stupid move. I think it was extra interesting that it happened to be a female ref. I don't think that
Right.
that got talked about enough. You
No.
know, I would
That's
like
why I
to
thought the
see.
hammer was coming down.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I would like to see some analytics on whether or not female refs call more fouls or not. I think from my blind eye and just the eye test, I would say that they tend to. I know it's not good to generalize like that, but they seem to call a lot more fouls than they normally should. And yeah, I mean, just in general, there's too many fouls. But I'm not gonna show Ty Guy any sympathy here, or Ty Jerome any sympathy here.
Yeah,
Screw him.
That's
you
why he's the
mixed
loser
up
of
the
the week.
two hateable white guys on that Virginia team, Kyle
Yeah,
Guy and Ty
screw 'em
Jerome.
both.
But yeah, Ty Jerome, a misogynist and a hypocrite.
There you have it. Words from Brian. Um, yeah, that's the winner and loser of the week. Always presented by SeatGeek, always from Views from Section 400. I think it is now time to jump into our most anticipated baseball division preview. The National League
Oh,
East is on the cards today. We saved it for the end of the show, so I don't know how much firepower there will be, but there will be some nonetheless. We'll start out here a
Let's
little
just
bit on
start.
this.
Let's start with the Marlins. Let's
Yeah,
build
I was
up.
gonna say we're
I
not
need to
we're
get
not
my popcorn for
Let's
this.
build
I'm
our
gonna
we're
way
sit
up.
not
back and
we're not
watch.
gonna jump right into it. We can start with the Marlins, and oh boy, it's pretty pitiful. We'll just go through them quickly because this is a triple A lineup. Xavier Edwards, Connor Norby, Jonah Bride, Jesus Sanchez at the four hole, which is probably their best hitter, definitely their best hitter. Dave Myers, Matt Mervis, who was a Cub top prospect. Otto Lopez is in there. Kyle Stowers, Nick Fortes, whoever the hell. I recognize the name behind the dish. Ugh, that's ugly.
Look, is this the second worst team in baseball after the White Sox or not?
Yeah.
Based on that lineup, it's not. They're not going to score runs. Maybe a Jesus Sanchez home run here and there, but this team could have less wins than the White Sox. I
If Rob
think.
Manfred didn't ruin baseball and NBAify the schedule, and the Marlins had to play the NL East as much as they should have to play the NL East, they would definitely lose less or more games than the White Sox.
Mm, good point there. And their shining star, their lone superstar, ace Sandy Alcantara, who there's so much rumor around the mill that he is going to be traded by the deadline. They have Ryan Weathers, who had a good year for the Padres, I think, last year. Edward Cabrera, top prospect, who was just okay. Cal Quantrill is in there at the four slot as of now, who was a Guardians guy who had just an absolute
Oh man.
monster ERA, 6+ ERA. So look for him to get rocked by some of the explosive NL East lineups. And Max Meyer, who, is another top prospect. But the only thing, Alcantara is expected to return from Tommy John surgery. I'm not sure when, but I don't know if he's back. I don't know.
He's
But
back.
okay. So he's fully back. This is an ugly lineup, man.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, other than Alcantara, like this is just ugly.
I mean, if Max Meyer and Edward Cabrera can finally put it together, that'll at least be fun for all three Marlins fans to watch.
Yeah.
They're really going to get some use out of that nightclub in left field. That's going to be the only reason to go to a Marlins game this year.
And let's not forget, Marlins on one of our first ever winners and losers of the week. The Marlins organization was my loser because they put all the military members way up in the nosebleeds. I don't know if you guys remember
I
that.
remember
In
that.
an empty stadium, put our service members, men and women, in the nosebleeds when there was nobody in the stadium. So just poor organization, man, with a really bad baseball team.
How
Yeah,
about the
they
Nationals?
Yeah, we
Are they
could
going to
jump.
be any good, or is this just going to be these top three teams over here?
Well, the Nationals will be better, and they'll definitely be better than the Marlins, I think. We can jump through the lineup really quick. CJ Abrams is going to be their cornerstone, other than Dylan Cruz, who we'll see what he can do at the big league level. Top pick for them. But CJ Abrams, kind of proved last year that he can be a guy that produces. James Wood, 6'7" guy who we'll see what he has at the plate. Nathaniel Lowell, whoever the hell, the guy from the Rangers, their first baseman. Okay. Josh Bell. Oh my gosh, how many teams has that guy been on? He's there, switch hitting at the DH. Luis Garcia Jr., Kyber Ruiz, Paul DeYoung. If you remember that guy on the Cardinals from feels like 50 years ago, and then Jacob Young. Yeah, a lot of prospecty s guys, young guys. If they all click, they'll be they should have more hype and promise than that Marlins lineup. But yeah, I mean this team certainly is worse than the top three that we're alluding to.
yeah, they kind of remind me of the Marlins when Yelich and Ozuna and Stanton were like really young and they just boofed that with Dylan Cruz and James Wood out there. And hopefully they don't. Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind it if they boof it as much as the Marlins did, but I think they'll be frisky, especially if Dylan Cruz and James Wood can become like solid everyday players. Definitely more frisky than the Marlins.
Yeah,
For for
it's
for a team that won 71 and 91 last year, we think they have a better year or a worse year?
71 and 91 for the Nationals, which
Better.
is surprising. 71 is pretty decent for that team last year. I so tough, right? Because a win or loss doesn't mean, but I think the same, the same.
Yeah, I think they'll hover around like 5 to 10 under until the trade deadline, and then they'll trade whatever. Maybe Josh Bell's having a good year and Nathaniel Lowe's having a good year, and then they'll just tank at the end. Unless they,
Yeah,
who knows, maybe they're around 500 and they decide to try to add. That would be a bad decision, but I think they could be frisky. They'll definitely be annoying. There'll be a game in like August that the Mets should win that they blow because Dylan Cruz hits a 3-run home run in the eighth inning, and I'll get mad
yeah.
about it.
They'll be that pesky team that nobody wants to play. We'll jump into their rotation, which again, Mackenzie Gore. How long has that guy been like a top prospect? He's going to be their number one guy this year. Like again, is he annoying? Sure, he's a little bit annoying to face sometimes, but he's a guy that these lineups can hit, man.
Yeah,
What
him
do you got,
and
Brian? I know you have a soft spot for Gore.
I like Gore. Him and Abrams were the top prospects in the Soto trade with San Diego, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Gore and Abrams. Abrams looking to be a solid guy. I mean, Gore is fine, but is he an elite number one arm? No.
No. Actually, James Wood might have been in that too. So that's looking like a decent deal for the Nationals if Gore can
Yeah,
become that elite.
they definitely cashed out. I almost said crashed out. Some of the fans were crashing out when they lost him, but no, he definitely they got some good prospects and guys that are already contributing at the major league level, which the Padres don't even have Soto anymore. So look, worked out for them in some extent. But Jake Irvin slotted as the number two guy. It's pretty gross. It's really gross. Michael Soroka, maybe 8 years ago that was cool, but not great right now. Mitchell Parker, and then Trevor Williams, who had an okay year last year, but another guy who they're just looking to eat innings for them. So look, the Marlins will be worse, but this team won't be too far behind.
I like Trevor Williams. Jake Irvin's fine. Michael Soroka, maybe 2 Achilles tears ago. And then Mitchell Parker. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to
Yeah,
give up a lot of runs.
it's a pretty ugly lineup, man. No real flamethrowers, I don't think. Like Trevor Williams isn't a flamethrower. Soroka wasn't a flamethrower. Mitchell Parker, I'm not sure. Jake Irvin, I don't think so. And Gore was a lefty. I mean, was he like he had the crazy curveball.
Yeah, he tops out at like 94. If he's really in the middle of summer facing a good lineup, he'll get to like 95. But
Okay, but yeah, not like not a 99 guy,
no.
not 98 with some spin on it, but. Yeah, we'll jump into now kind of the meat of this division with the Atlanta Braves. We'll go through their lineup. Jerkson Profar comes over. Was he on the Rockies last year or had a weird 1 year stint with the Rockies?
I think he was Rockies and then he got traded to the Padres at the deadline.
That's funny. I was going to say the Padres.
Well, he was with the Padres
He was
and then
with
he
the
left the
Padres,
Padres, and I think he was back with the Padres.
something like that. But either way, he's at the top of the lineup. He got a nice little free agency deal. He'll be there. Austin Riley, arguably the best, a top three third baseman. Matt Olson, not a great year, I don't think, for Olson last year, but definitely a lot of expectation for him this year. Marcell Ozuna from the Braves. Ozzy Albies will be sitting there at second base. Ronald Acuna Jr., is he going to start on the year? I
He
mean, he'll probably be in there for Ozuna. Maybe he's in there. I mean, I don't know where they're going to slot him in.
they're hoping to have him back in May, I believe.
Okay, so Ozuna will start as the DH. Are they going to throw him? Ozuna will go, or Acuna will go in for Jared Kelenic, Brian's old friend, or Kelenic in right field, probably. No, or are they going to
He,
start as Acuna as the DH? Maybe throw Ozuna or throw. I don't know how they're going
I
to mix and match this.
I think the plan is to have Kelenic play right and then sit at the 9 hole, and then once Acuna comes back, just have Acuna go one, drop everyone down a spot. And I'm pretty sure the plan is to get Acuna to the point where he can play the field every day because you can't have Ozuna play the field.
No, no, it's pretty ugly. Sean Murphy got injured, so Drake Baldwin, is he going to be? I'm pretty sure he was a top catching prospect for them. So now he kind of gets a spot to shine with Sean Murphy expected to miss, a good chunk of the beginning of the year. Orlando Arcia, which, Brian, this guy's annoying, is he not?
I know you hate him a little extra because the whole Bryce Harper.
Yeah, not as much because Harper got his revenge and stared him down, and the Phillies won that series, so that was all put to rest. But he's just an annoying guy, annoying
Very
Spanish
annoying.
player.
And he's not very good. And it's just weird because the Braves normally hit on most of their prospects, and they've had Vaughn Grissom sitting in AAA for what seems like 3 years. And I guess he's
He's
just
like,
not good enough.
but he like is though. Like he comes up and he like does decent.
Yeah, and you feel like he would be the guy to just steal that job, but for
And
some
they
reason he
just,
hasn't.
yeah, it's an Acuna thing. You rather have Arcia and Acuna kind of gets to call the shots. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Grissom's bad in the locker room and RC is just better. And they like him better.
Yeah, they like him better, but I don't know. A team that'll probably fight for the division. But is this team scare you to win the division, Brian?
If they stay healthy, that I definitely
Especially with
think.
Acuna, right? I mean, he's an MVP caliber guy. But we'll jump through their rotation here. Chris Sale coming off a Cy Young year. I mean, he turned back the clock, is what it seems, and he was lights out last year. So he will be their premier number one guy with the departure of Max Fried and their 40-year-old Charlie Morton, I think, was on the team last year as well. Reynaldo Lopez is slated to be in the two hole. I know Spencer Strider has an injury, so he's going to be out for a little while. Spencer Schwellenbach,
Nailed it.
again, bang, look at that. Not sure what he's doing or where he'll be, but again, a guy who I think pitched last year and
He
wasn't
was
really
good.
was he good for them last
He
year?
was very good.
Really?
He started off a little inconsistent, and then once the summer hit, he went on a tear.
Gotcha. And then Grant Holmes, anything with him?
He's terrible.
Okay, well, he's slotted to be the four. And then Ian Anderson is just the premier innings eater guy.
Yeah, I'm sure Anderson and Holmes will just be rotating around at the 5 spot when Strider comes back.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it seems to be. They're
I
saying that Lopez and Schwellenbach are dark horse Cy Young candidates.
Yeah, Lopez is very good. Again, I forget who we were talking about in the last preview. I think we talked about it with a couple guys. Bailey Falter was one of them, and he's better than Bailey Falter, but Lopez is going to get you 4 innings of shutout ball, but he's going
Yeah,
to throw 85
it
pitches.
was it was Peralta and Falter, the
Yeah.
guys who will get you those 3, 4 innings and then kind of fall apart.
And where they kind of fall apart just because I guess stamina issues or just not being effective. Like Lopez is very good. He doesn't have an out pitch. So he's throwing 20 pitches an inning. And in today's MLB, you can't do that.
No, you need to force ground balls early in counts, and then have the out pitch as well, like you just said, which is whether it's a strikeout pitch or get the ground ball pitch. You need to have something that allows you to do that. And I guess he doesn't. I haven't seen much of his game. I'm sure we'll see it this year a lot.
Yeah, I think he came up. He might have started in the bullpen or like they had him on a very short leash to begin the season, but him and Schwellenbach really came on towards the end of the year, especially with Strider out. I am very worried about Chris Sale. Like his injury at the end of last year, you never want to hear arm fatigue, especially when a
No,
guy's old.
no, you don't.
And he's going to be effective when he's in, but like all it takes is one little banged up shoulder, and he's going to be on the shelf for a couple months.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, the Braves, I still think they're the three spot of these three teams that we have. And since the Phillies are the reigning NL East champions, they will go last and we will go to the New York Mets. Is that not fair, Brian?
No, it's
Or
fair.
I think that's
I
pretty
could I
fair.
could counter and say the Mets got the furthest in the playoffs, but the Phillies did win the division.
But it's division and it's a division preview.
Yep.
So that's how we're going to roll that one. We will jump to the New York Mets, who are bolstered up with their key signing in all of baseball, Juan Soto. We'll go through what MLB has as maybe a projected lineup. I know the Mets love to mix and match their lineups throughout the year. Brian probably knows better than anybody.
We'll,
But,
we'll see how they have it here, and I'll make some tweaks as we go.
we'll make some tweaks. But as they have it, let me get through it, and then you can make some tweaks. But Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Brandon Nimmo at the 4 doesn't seem right, but we'll see. Mark Vientos, Jesse Winker, which I think is gross. Brian loves him. Francisco Alvarez, Jeff McNeil at the 8 hole. What Jeff McNeil are we going to get? Is he even going to be there? I don't know. Tyrone Taylor in center field. You also have the likes of Starling Marte and Jose Siri. So definitely a loaded lineup. Juan Soto in any lineup gives you a loaded lineup regardless. But yeah, I mean, this is Brian's team. We'll let him see what he thinks of the lineup.
Yeah, I think they were pretty accurate there. Jose Siri will be the opening day center fielder and play more than
Over
Tyrone Taylor.
Is Tyrone Taylor. You don't like Tyrone Taylor.
I love Tyrone Taylor, but the Jose Siri offers you power that Tyrone Taylor doesn't, and they're both elite defensively, so Siri's just going to play more.
And Siri has, the attitude, the personality, just even if he's batting 212,
which he will.
He'll have a monster home run randomly that'll energize the clubhouse, which is, I don't know that Tyrone Taylor carries that personality. Maybe he'll bat a little bit higher, but yeah, I mean, that's the difference I see with Siri being in there.
Yeah, it's going to be in like the defensive kind of battles where you need to hit singles and make contact. Mendy will put Tyrone Taylor in there because he'll hit like 240. Jose Siri will be in there every day as like a 212, like you said, 25 homers, and they're both going to play near Gold Glove caliber defense. The other, I don't think Jeff McNeil is going to be on this team for much longer.
Who plays second base?
You're going to see Luis Angel
Brett
Acuna.
Beatty? Is Brett Beatty going to get thrown at second base?
You're going to see Luis Angel Acuna, and you're going to see Brett Beatty. And I don't know which one's going to play more. It's probably going to be Jeff McNeil's start, and whichever.
McNeil's the veteran guy who we all know can be a 300 hitter. You're putting him way down in the lineup, so he doesn't have to be
anymore.
We'll see. I mean, 2 years ago he was like a 330 hitter, so
yeah,
I think if he could be a 275 hitter, you guys will take it.
He'll be on the roster because he can play the outfield, and although they're going to carry 5 outfielders, so they might not even need him, but. I think the best version of this team by August has Luis Angel Acuna hitting in that 8 hole, playing second base, playing a good second base. He can play short to spell Lindor if Lindor ever needs to DH. And I really like Acuna. I think Acuna's going to be very good. I mean, who knows? Brett Beatty's had a good spring, but I'm pretty much off the Brett Beatty train.
Dude, Brett Beatty is the Simmons of summer spring highlights. You know what I mean? Like, Brady has had some monster springs and some monster minor league numbers, and then he gets to the big leagues when it counts, and the guy just can't put it all together.
Yeah, he's this is like his last kind of prove it year for me because now they're making him play the other positions. So he's going to try to fill the utility role, and if he can hit enough and do that, then he'll find a spot to stick. But I don't know if I see it from Beatty.
The only other thing I have here with the lineup, I guess question-wise is, and I think we talked about it a little bit, just to justify Marte being on the team and not having to cut his pretty sizable contract, platoon at DH with Winker.
Yeah, and I really like that platoon. I mean, it doesn't jump off the paper, but Winker is very good against right-handed pitchers. He sucks against lefties, and Starling Marte is a very good hitter against left-handed pitchers. And he's just league average against righties. So if they're both just what they've been throughout their careers, you're going to get production there. And I think ultimately you want Alvarez to kind of take a step to where he's that 6th guy as kind of your second cleanup. And then Winker and Marte are at 7.
Yeah, so where I mean, is it spot on at least top 4, right? Lindor, Soto, Alonso, that's top 3.
Yeah, that'll be your top 3. We could get to a point where it's Vientos hitting 3rd, Alonso hitting 4, Nimmo hitting 5. I think I like that version a little bit better, but I don't mind that 1 through 5.
Yeah, and Nimmo not really your natural 4-hole cleanup guy, right?
No, he has added power lately, and I think in today's analytical age, you're kind of thinking like your second leadoff guy is your 4 guy instead of the natural cleanup hitter.
Yeah, the numbers really taken over, which sometimes I'm a fan, sometimes not. But I mean, this lineup is going to be very good, as much as it pains me to admit. Especially, we'll see with Pete Alonso. I mean, a down year last year. I mean, he was batting like 210 at one point. And That's not what you saw from him for a while. He was a guy who could bat over 250 and have the home runs, which is why he was elite. We'll see. I mean, Pete Alonso, I think, is a little bit of a question mark heading into this year, especially off a new contract.
Yeah, I think I really do believe the kind of bringing on Scott Boras as agent and knowing it's a contract year and playing in New York, and that got to him. And you saw towards the end of the year, especially during the playoff run, he kind of just said, "Screw it, I'm just going to play," and he loosened up. He had a great postseason. Now he's getting paid a lot of money, albeit on a 1-year contract that he could opt into next year. He won't. I think we see a little bit of a bounce back. He hit 34 homers last year. If he could just get that number up to 40, that's all you need out of Pete Alonso.
Yeah, it really is all you need. But yeah, lineup is going to be dynamite nonetheless. Here's where I think it all falls apart for the New York
Yeah,
Mets.
and I know how much you hate this rotation, and I have some counterpoints, but let's run through it first.
And well, it's fallen apart a little bit more in the spring as of late. You can touch on some of those injuries. I'll go with what they have, and we'll see from there. But Kodai Senga, did he get hurt, or is he still slated as the opening day?
No, he did not get hurt. Stop wishing
okay.
injury on Kodai
I
Senga.
I didn't know. They got a lot going on. Clay Holmes.
Yep.
Hurt.
Healthy. He hasn't given up a run in the spring.
Hasn't given up a run in the spring. We'll see what he can do. David Peterson.
Healthy.
Healthy will be the 3. Griffin Canning.
Healthy.
will be the 4. Oakland A legend Paul Blackburn slotted in at the 5 seed.
Healthy. I have. Who wrote this? Is this the Como that wrote this projection?
I don't know. But there's no Sean Manaea, there's no Frankie Montas, and I guess Tyler McGill will fight with Blackburn and Canning to be involved somewhere.
Paul Blackburn I don't know if he's going to make this roster. He had a spinal issue last year. He wasn't good before that to begin with. He just gave up 4 runs in his first start of spring training. Tyler McGill does have an option, so they could send him down to start the year, which is why Blackburn has kind of the edge. But if he goes out and throws 2 more spring outings and gives up 4 or 5 runs in each of them, I don't think David Stearns is going to give him any kind of leash.
Has Blackburn been pitching in the spring?
His first start, he went 2 innings, he gave up 4 runs. Yeah. I don't think he'll be part of this rotation. He may break the club to start the season, but he's not going to be here for over a month.
I mean, Brian, I know you have your counterpoints, but you can't be looking at this with World Series aspirations. And sure, maybe they can make a move and be like, yeah, like this is it. I mean, they didn't make any moves to solidify this rotation other than Clay Holmes, which, okay.
Yeah, they brought in Clay. So
Clay Holmes is a relief pitcher. Clay Holmes is a relief pitcher.
Yeah, they brought back Sean Manaea. My thinking with this is,
who is hurt now for a while.
Not a while. He'll be back at the end of April is the word.
He'll be back when he's back, and you know that's how it goes in baseball injuries.
Yes, but again,
i.e. Carlos Carrasco.
It's a 162 game season, and with this lineup, you can tread water is the wrong word because I think they'll be better than treading water. But
dude, this the lineup will hold them together for sure, but the rotation.
Listen,
all right, I know you're bought in on Peterson. But I still think Peterson, Canning, Blackburn, any triple, I don't love it.
You brought in Kodai Senga to be your ace, and he's shown when he is healthy, he can be that for you.
Of course.
So that's the most important part of this season in terms of the Mets pitching is Kodai Senga staying healthy. And if he does that, you have an ace. You have a guy that can start playoff game 1 for you, go up against pretty much anybody else in the league. You may not have the edge, but you have confidence going into that game.
Yeah.
Clay Holmes, he's been a reliever his whole career. Besides, I think he started 3 games when he came up with the Pirates. Most of the time, he's been above average. He's also been average. I don't think he's blown some games, but he's been a good pitcher. If he can develop length and just give you 6 innings to start of how he's been pitching in the bullpen, that's a solid middle of the rotation guy. Sean Manaea has shown you, at least last year after he changed his arm angle.
Manaea is a massive question mark at this point after the right oblique strain and one
the
good
injury's
year
not
for
great.
the Mets.
But that one good year came after they tweaked his arm angle. He added some pitches. He worked with Johan Santana in the spring, adding a changeup. I think the Mets pitching lab, which it's been around for like 2 years now with David Stearns, and it's already getting called like the Dodgers pitching lab, which I think is baloney. It's a good pitching lab. They've fixed some of these pitchers, and I think Manaea is a great kind of example of that.
For 1 year, and now year 2 he's injured, so let's wait and see what happens.
I know, but I think when he's there, he's going to be great. And then you're counting on Tyler McGill, Griffin Canning, maybe Paul Blackburn, some combo of them to just give you, in the best world, one of them is your 5-starter as we get through the season. I think Griffin Canning is good stuff. I think he has the edge. If he can give you 5-starter just numbers, that's fine. The second biggest part of this rotation, other than Kodai Senga, is going to be Brandon Sproat. He is your number one prospect in AAA. Not just pitching prospect, number one prospect in the organization. He came up, pitched a beautiful outing in spring training against the Nationals. He was great in single A and double A last year, kind of struggled a bit in AAA. That was his first year of pro ball, so you expect a little bit of struggles. If he can come up for you in the midseason and be effective, that gives you Senga, hopefully Sproat, and hopefully either Manaea or Clay Holmes kind of distance themselves as that third elite guy, where you have 3 very good guys. And then if Sproat doesn't work out, you've built the farm system to the point where you get to the deadline, you say, hey, we need to upgrade this rotation. David Stearns will do that. They have a good farm system, and they have guys they're willing to part with because you just signed Juan Soto. You just signed Jose Siri. Like, you don't need these position players to come up and help you because your lineup is so good. You can part with some of these prospects and get like maybe a Dylan Cease or get a frontline starter to help you. So I think this rotation, while it's not elite, it might not even be above average. I think it's definitely average, and I think it's led by an above average guy in Kodai Senga. I think it's good enough at its point right now to get this team to the playoffs. And if Brandon Sproat becomes a great starter, and then if you add someone to the deadline, and if one of the 3 of Griffin Canning, Paul Blackburn, or Tyler McGill can figure it out, that makes them a good rotation. And I'm willing to bet on that because they're already an average rotation.
That entire, I won't call it a rant because you weren't really ranting. You were just stating.
I was thinking out loud.
You were thinking out loud. Sounds like a lot of hope.
That's what I was going to say. You're hoping.
And a lot of blind faith.
Listen, so I guess I didn't kind of, I am ranting at this point, but I think the rotation right now is good enough for you to make the playoffs. I am hoping it becomes great. And if it becomes great, it's a World Series winning team. But there are ways you can upgrade it with guys that aren't on the roster right now or in the minor leagues like Brandon Sproat, where I think it's very feasible to upgrade this rotation to be a good one.
Yeah, and right. They just need to get into the playoffs with Senga. Again, and it's the bias. It's your team, but you're like so sold on Sean Manaea, not only repeating what he did last year, but maybe even being a little bit better. And
I don't think he has to.
I'm not sold on that.
If he's a little bit worse than last year, that's good enough. He was great last year. If he's good this year, that's fine.
But he's also a guy that we've seen be a 7 ERA pitcher.
I think.
And you could say the arm angle and the Mets fucking Gatorade pitching lab and this, that, and the third.
They're a body armor team now.
Whatever you want to call it. It's in his head. It's in his existence. It's happened. We've seen it. So to write it off, let's pump the brakes. But I agree. If there's some minor league guys, sure. But we've seen. I've called for it in January when we started touching on baseball, and we've seen the pitching staff blow up a little bit through injury. already in spring and the season not even starting yet is what I'm trying to say. We're not even in the season yet. We're already seeing fires go off.
Comparatively to what we've seen in years past, especially last year with Senga missing the first season, these are very minor
Yeah.
injuries, and I'm not worried about it yet. If tomorrow Kodai Senga, it's reported he has a strained oblique or his elbow sore, then I'll be very worried. As long as Senga is healthy, as long as Clay Holmes is healthy and he's stretching himself out, and as long as David Peterson is there, I trust those three guys to deliver you results. And then the rest, the bottom two, we know what Tyler McGill is. Hopefully, he'll be Tyler McGill of the past in the first couple months of the season where he's good. And then he can fall off at the end where hopefully Brandon Sproat takes his job. Griffin
Who's
Canning.
the other guy? Who's the other guy they had in AAA that he came in for like a spot start last year against the Giants and had like 50 fantasy points through like 8? Was it? I don't think it was Budo.
Budo is still there. He'll be a reliever. They really want him in the bullpen, which also, like, I'm not too worried about this rotation because the Mets bullpen this might be the best Mets bullpen that they've had since like 2006.
Why?
You have Edwin Diaz, who I know has been iffy, but he's still an elite closer. If you could just pick closers out of every player in the player pool for your team, Edwin Diaz.
I think the only one that's like a guaranteed absolute lock is Emmanuel Clase. Devin Williams is second, and then after that, I don't think there's anybody that's an absolute guarantee.
Yeah, but I'm saying Edwin Diaz would be like right there as the next tier, like of guys you'd want to close games for you.
Sure.
Yeah, and then you have AJ Minter coming over from the Braves, who has kind of just been a thorn in my side since he's been in the league because he's been so
Oh my
good.
God, what an annoying freaking guy.
Yeah, he's going to be setting up games. Ryan Stanek, who was great for the Mets last year, I have a lot of faith in him.
That is a blow up arm potential right there.
I like
you can't even say that with a straight face.
I really like Stanek. And then you have Jose Budo. You have a bunch of guys that are good that I have faith in. And
who's like the guy that comes in and you're like, all right, he needs to eat 3 innings because our pitcher got shelled by the 3rd inning?
Budo, and then maybe Paul Blackburn once he gets bumped from the rotation.
So they're like the middle relief, like, hey, we need to eat 3 innings here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, look, we're going to agree to disagree here, Brian, right? We're not going to be able to agree on this. And, it's a pretty long Met interview preview there, but rightfully so. I mean, that's your squad, and we want to talk about it. It's going to be a battle all year.
Yeah. Also, just very last thing on the bullpen, Daniel Nunez was great last year, fantastic, and he got hurt, and he's healthy now. So if he could stay healthy, he's another guy that I have full trust in that bullpen.
Yes, again, we can agree to disagree on that. I will now shift over to the reigning National League East Division champion. Haven't been able to say that in a long time. The Philadelphia Phillies, I did not expect them to win the division last year. I don't think it was helpful that they won the division last year, and I don't think it'll be helpful if they win it again this year either. They play better in the villain wild card role. But again, according to MLB here, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Bohm, Schwarber, Castellanos, Bryson Stott, JT Real Muto, Max Kepler, the newest addition to hold down left field, which I love over Austin Hayes. So a lot of people are like, oh, Max Kepler, whatever. No, look what we had there last year. Max Kepler is an upgrade. And then Brandon Marsh, who, we've seen just be so average over the last couple of years. I mean, look, it's now or never for the Phillies. This lineup is aging. It's not aging. Like, they're getting older. They're still elite though. Trey Turner is going to be an elite player. Bryce Harper, we know what he can do. Alec Bohm, red hot, borderline best third baseman in baseball first half of the year last year, and then just fell off a cliff. Kyle Schwarber, not sure where Rob Thompson's going to have him in the lineup. He has been an elite leadoff guy, not a natural leadoff guy, but an elite leadoff guy for the Phillies. Hopefully we don't see production dip if he has to go into the cleanup hole. Nick Castellanos, again, I think a wild card guy, can be great, can, kind of turn into a weirdo. Bryson Stott, another guy who we have no idea what he's going to do. But again, should be some promise because he is pretty young. JT Realmuto batting in the 7 hole, I think will help him. Again, a guy who fell off a cliff last year. We need him to step it up. And then Max Kepler already has a home run and some hits in spring. He's had a strong spring, I think, for a guy who comes in fresh. So yeah, I like the move to have him bat 8 all year. And then Brandon Marsh to be your 9 hole hitter. I mean, I think that'll be a platoon between Rojas and Brandon Marsh. Rojas will play, borderline best center field defense in baseball, and then Marsh will just be the guy to throw in there against righty. So kind of what the Mets will do with their platoon, the Phillies will do with Marsh and Rojas. Yeah, the lineup's elite. It's arguably the best. I know the Mets have Soto, but I think the Phillies' bottom of their lineup is better than the Mets. And I know you're going to disagree with me, but I mean Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber, Castellanos, Bryson Stott, Real Muto, Max Kepler, and Marsh. It's a pretty dynamite lineup.
It's a great lineup. I think where they differ, and I guess I'll just put this out there now. I think the Phillies are the best rotation in this division. The Mets have the best lineup in this division, and the Braves, if they stay healthy, have the best overall team. But they don't have a better than either the Mets or the Phillies in their respective areas. I think the Phillies lineup's great. They won the division for a reason last year. I think the difference between them and the Mets lineup is the Phillies, I won't say they're trending down because they're not, but they are getting older. I think the Mets lineup offers a lot more upside than the Phillies does. Like if both these lineups perform to where they should, I think they're about equal, but the Mets offer more upside to where they can outperform the Phillies.
Why? Because they're younger? Or?
Yeah. If you look at the catcher position, JT Realmuto is aging. His stolen bases.
He's falling off a cliff. He definitely worries me for sure.
And this is the year you're kind of expecting who was the number one prospect in baseball, Francisco Alvarez, to take that next step and become an elite catcher. So that's a big area for me. And then right field, Castellanos, you kind of know what he is at this point. And he's not declining as much as he is just kind of evening out. And then obviously Juan Soto in right field for the Mets. And then at shortstop position, Trey Turner is still very good. But he's
Turner's only like 30 or 31. So it's not like he's 35. Turner will be very elite.
No, but the issue with him is one of his biggest tools is that speed. And that's going to decline faster than any other tool. And I don't think his defense is better than Lindor. So I would give Lindor the edge there in terms of trajectory. So those are like the three big positions where I think the Mets just have a much higher upside where it kind of sets them apart.
I'm not going to argue the upside, but I think the reason why the Phillies showcase a little less upside is because they already have all of those guys who are playing to their potential, like Castellanos and Harper, Schwarber too. Like these are guys that they're going to go out there and they're going to get you 40 home runs. It's just like kind of who they are. I mean, some of these I don't want to call them prospects, but some of these younger guys with the Mets, like we haven't seen them do it yet. And I think that's why you think the Mets can be as good as the Phils. But I think on paper right now, I'm still going Phils.
Yeah, there's more potential for upside with the Mets, but there's more potential for blow up happening, right? It's Vientos after one good year. It's, some of those other guys, I don't even what are they going to, Jose Siri could blow up for sure 100%. So Alvarez, okay, that guy, we'll see. Right. The upside's there, but with upside is also downside.
Let's not forget, Brian, last year was a rebuilding year, a transition year for the Mets.
And now they're all in the World Series.
And they outproduced the Phillies lineup for the last 2/3 of the season.
Right, they did. They got hot.
I don't think it's fair to say they haven't done it before.
Well, I'm just saying they got hot at the right time. We've seen it consistently.
It was it was over 100 games.
We've seen it from the
that
Phillies.
Long?
I feel like
69-49 in the last 118 games. That was the best record in baseball.
But Brian, you're talking about the last 100 games versus the Phils, who've been doing it the last couple of years.
And that's
they've been on a decline, but they've been on a decline from the top level, right? World Series, NLCS, NLDS. The Mets made one little run to the NLCS in a transition year. That's the difference we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just think it's crazy to disrespect, and maybe I am taking the disrespect a little harder, and you didn't mean it as much as
I don't think it's disrespect.
But like,
I
even
think
I didn't bring up third base. Like I understand it's 1 year, but what Mark Vientos did in that postseason, I think, outweighs a full year of regular season production. I wholeheartedly believe he's a better third baseman than Alec Bohm. So that's another position where I think the Mets have the edge.
see, Jack, you got him riled up, and now he's throwing that out there at us. We'll see with Mark Vientos.
He was
It
the
was one
second best
year,
player in
and
the postseason last year.
he had a great postseason, Brian. You know how many times we see guys have great postseasons, especially in baseball?
Yeah, but he had a great regular season too. I don't know, and I
You know how
don't want
many
to.
times we see guys have a great year? Look, take Tim Anderson, for example, at shortstop. Look at his 330 fucking best hitter in baseball to the guy is designated for assignment. So we see guys go from great to hate like that. And I'm not saying Vientos is going to do that, but I'm not ready to sit here and just like tout Vientos as a perennial all-star because he had
No,
one
and
good year and a good
that's
playoffs.
that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying, like, if you look at right now, if you want Alec Bohm or Mark Vientos to start your team, I think it's about even, and I think Mark Vientos has a lot more upside to become better than Alec Bohm than you guys are giving him credit for, and that's like, I just, I guess you don't see it, but I
I
just
want Mark Vientos to fall off a cliff so bad. Like, please, in June, please, this guy needs to be batting 190. There's nothing I want more. I don't even care if the Phillies suck, but just Mark Vientos, please be batting 190 in June. There's nothing I want more than to see this Brian get off his high horse about Mark frickin' Vientos, dude. I've had enough of it.
Not gonna lie, I thought you meant a literal cliff.
No, I won't. I won't pray for injury or death, but figuratively speaking,
yeah,
Not gonna rule it out.
not gonna rule it out.
and I'm not saying the Phillies lineup is bad. I think it's really good. I think it's as
No.
good as the Mets. I just think the Mets have the higher
The
upside.
Mets have the upside. Okay, that's fair. We haven't even gone into the rotation, right? Like the lineups are that close. But let's see if the rotations are that close, Mr. Brian. Let's see if the Mets are right there with the Phillies on rotation. Mr. Griffin Canning has good stuff for a number 4 pitcher. Your overall perennial ace, ex-Met great, now Philly great, and arguably the greatest free agent signing in Phillies history. Zach Wheeler will be your perennial number 1 ace. Already looks electric in spring. This guy's been doing it. He's a pros pro. He'll be ready to go as your opening day starter. You have a toss-up. Aaron Nola's been your number 2 guy for years, since 2015. I mean, this guy's 10 years on the Phils now. He still seems like that kid that I remember, and he is old now. But is he going to be number 2? Is the new Christopher Sanchez with just probably the best changeup in baseball? I don't know who I'm stubbing with that, but it really is an elite changeup. You want to talk about upside? Christopher Sanchez has elite upside, an all-star last year, by the way. So Sanchez, Nola, we'll see where they go 1 and 2. Ranger Suarez is your number 4. Are you kidding me? A sub 3 ERA guy as your number 4, a guy who kept them intact last year against the Mets for how many innings until the bullpen blew it up? And then Jesus Luzardo in at your number 5, I think is just stupid and unfair. So, Brian, please dissect this rotation for me.
Yeah, like I said, it's the best rotation in the division. I also think there's a lot of similarities between.
Oh, my God.
I think that Christopher Sanchez had a great year, much like Sean Manaea had a great year.
Brian, I got to stop you right there. Matt, he's about to hit you with the Phillies are the same as the Mets, just like he hit you with Daniel Jones is the same as Trevor Lawrence.
That's not what I'm saying.
Good luck with this rabbit hole.
That's not what I'm saying. Zach Wheeler has the edge there. Aaron Nola definitely has the edge over whoever's pitching at the number 2 hole for the Mets. That 1-2 might be the best 1-2 in all of baseball.
Sanchez was an all-star last year.
Christopher Sanchez
and
did it
pitched
for
very well
1
in the
year,
playoffs.
much like Sean Manaea did it for 1 year.
Just like Vientos, Sanchez had a great playoffs and a great regular season, just like Vientos.
He did, but I think that you can't write off Sean Manaea if you're not going to do a little bit of a question mark for Christopher Sanchez. And
sure, I'll give you a little bit of question mark. And it wasn't just last year. Sanchez was good that year before as well. Not as dominant as he was, but he did have that year prior as well where Manaea had the 7 ERA. So it was up there. It was up there. You can pull the stats.
He's good. I'm saying, like, he's still a little unproven, and that's fine. He's good.
I got you. I'll give you that to an extent. Aaron Nola, Wheeler, your dominant guy. Sanchez, is Ranger Suarez unproven?
No, but where I'm going to go with this is much like Clay Holmes. He came from the bullpen, and he became a good starting pitcher. So if you're going to write off Clay Holmes,
never started.
Neither did Ranger Suarez.
Suarez has been a full-time starter for the last 2 years.
Yes, but he started in the bullpen. I'm saying it's the same trajectory.
Correct.
So you can't write off Clay Holmes.
Ranger Suarez, 2 full years of starting. Holmes, 0 full years of starting.
Yes, I understand that. I'm
going to write off Clay Holmes.
They took the same trajectory.
Of course.
This is the same thing as the Mets are showing more promise with what they can potentially do versus with where the Phillies are right now.
My point, yes, that's what I'm saying. The Phillies rotation is better. But you can't write off Clay Holmes because we've seen it work with Ranger Suarez.
Okay.
And at 5, David Peterson had a better year than Jesus Luzardo last year. Jesus Luzardo has, I'll go again to the upside. He has higher upside than David Peterson does, but David Peterson and Jesus Luzardo,
that's conveniently selective, Ryan, because Luzardo's slated to be the Phillies' 5th starter. Peterson's slated to be the Mets' 3rd starter.
So to
compare 3 versus 5 is nuts.
Their rotation's better. I said that. I basically tell you Aaron Nola's a full, the Mets don't have an Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola's 2, the Mets don't have that.
Here's the other thing, and this used to change depending on the organization. You guys would know better than me now, but do all teams implement like a 5-man rotation? Is that standard now?
For the most part, yes. Okay. Sometimes you'll see 6.
The Mets might go to 6 later on in the year.
You'll not like a 4-man rotation. You're just asking for problems with injuries.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay,
but typically 4, and then I guess is that a new analytical thing, Brian, where you've seen the 6-man rotations come into play a little more. But to be honest, and Zach Wheeler's a big advocate. Some of those guys don't like 6-man rotations because they don't like being off for that long. So it can piss off some of your top ace guys.
Yeah, and also, while we're in the first month of the year when there's those built-in off days, a lot of times you won't have to use the 5 starter. The Phillies will because they have 5 good pitchers. The Mets might skip a Paul Blackburn or Griffin Canning through the rotation, which would give them time for Shamanai to come back.
You also see teams now do what's called a bullpen game, which I think, as Doc Rivers on the Sixers called it, a scheduled loss. You'll see bullpen games be deployed when, you have an injury. It's just you have a game where you need to get through one game and then you're back on track, which is literally just a smorgasbord of guys out of the bullpen trying to fight their way to the 9th inning.
And I'm glad you brought up the bullpen, Matt, because from what I remember last season, that was sort of the downfall of the Phils, or am I wrong?
In the playoffs, yes. They lost Jeff Hoffman, who has been their most consistent guy over the last few years. And I'm glad you brought it up, too, because it's, for me, heavily question marks all over the place. I mean, there's not one single guy that I trust. Hoffman was getting there, and I think it's just the PTSD I have with Phillies baseball, and their bullpens have been for the last 10-plus years of not being very good. But, they were solid the last few years, especially that World Series run. They were pretty dominant. But they got a guy like Jordan Romano in as closer, who I will agree, Brian, before you jump down my throat, an absolute question mark, probably the biggest question mark out of this bullpen and maybe this just pitching staff in general. Romano was an elite closer 3 years ago. Very, very elite closer. But last year, he got injured and wasn't as good because of that injury. So, yes, huge question mark. Then you have a guy like Matt Strahm. Then you have a guy like Jose Alvarado. Strahm pitched very well last year, but he's a guy who I think can blow up. And I hate that I have to deal with Matt Strahm again. I would have taken Hoffman back over Strahm. So that's that. Alvarado, we don't know. He was elite in that 2022-23 World Series run, whatever it was. And even the NLCS, he was elite. So Alvarado has a chance to get back to that. Orion Kerkering is now a guy you are going to lean on. Nasty stuff. Sick fastball. Wicked slider. kind of blew up a little bit last year. So again, very young. Phillies know how to figure their guys out. They'll see what they can do this year. So I don't know what'll happen there. And then I'm trying to think of who else will be there. I mean, that's kind of it. You're looking at Kirkering, Alvarado, um, what's his face, Matt Strom, and Jordan Romano are going to be your top bullpen arms. And then I know there's another guy who will be an innings eater. And then, also we forget about Andrew Painter, who's selected to come up at some point. He's a starter, so I don't see him going to the rotation. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what you have with the Phillies bullpen.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the difference in these two pitching staffs where the Phillies have the rotation where you can get 7 innings out of all these guys because they're that good. So the bullpen isn't that much of a glaring issue. You don't need to address it as much. The Mets, while their rotation is a lot worse, if you can get 5-6 innings, they have a lot more bullpen arms that you can get to the end of games with. Where the Phillies are going to rely on that starting pitching because they can and they should. The Mets have the bullpen, the back end bullpen arms where you only need this average rotation to give you 6 innings.
And you're absolutely right, Brian, in the sense of you're going to win 90 something games if your pitchers can go 7 innings and you don't have to worry too much about the bullpen. But are we not just going to have a rerun of what just happened this last playoffs with the Phils if they don't bring in somebody who can actually close out games? Because I mean that's what we saw with the Phillies. They were winning games through 6-7 innings, and then once they went to the bullpen, they collapsed. Isn't that?
Yeah, they're putting all their faith in Jordan Romano being that elite closer again, which we don't know. It's a question mark. I'm not saying he will be. I'm not saying he won't be. They're putting a lot of faith in Matt Strom repeating what he did last year. Jose Alvarado, Orion Kirkering. I forgot they got a guy Tanner Banks, I think from the White Sox. He pitched to a low 3 ERA last year on a really bad team. So again, question mark. I have no idea. And then Joe Ross is there. I think was he on the Nationals?
Yeah, he was on the Nationals forever.
I think he pitched well for the Nationals. I'm not going to say I have faith in the guy, but 3.77 ERA last year.
Yeah, and I will say maybe not for Dave Dombrowski because he hasn't exactly shown trade deadline prowess, but the bullpen is one of the easier parts of your team to upgrade at the deadline.
And if we do know, last year Dombrowski traded for Estevez, which was the best bullpen arm on the market. We know that didn't work out in the playoffs, but Estevez was good for the Phillies until that Mets series.
Francisco Lindor.
Put your smile away, Brian. You didn't win shit either.
Yeah, but that was a pretty cool highlight.
It definitely was. And, Brian's old friend Taiwan Walker is in the bullpen as well. He got shelled the other day in spring, so he's still there. $18 million a year. Way to go, Dave.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Breaking news: Joey Bosa just got cut by the Chargers.
Really? Well, when we do views late at night, 10:30 almost, we get the breaking news that we seemingly would have missed. But to wrap it all up, the Phillies rotation, their starting pitching is lights out. Their lineup is lights out. And the bullpen is definitely a question mark and probably the weakest part so far. To what Brian just said, I think it's a good point. It is something that is fixable. They have some pieces now the Phillies used to not have a great farm. They have some decent farm pieces. I'm not saying leverage the entire farm to add a bullpen arm, but to Brian's point, it is easy to fix. It also usually doesn't take much to grab a rental arm, at the deadline. You're not going to have to give up, the entirety of the farm to get a rental piece. I mean, I think I forget who they gave up last year, but it wasn't anything spectacular for Estevez. So the bullpen is still a work in progress and can be fixed during the year. This isn't like a god awful bullpen here. Like, the Phillies have had some god awful bullpens. It's not god awful, but there are some question marks. And like you said, Jack, a little bit of their downfall last year came from the bullpen. Their whole downfall. I mean, they blew game 1 because of it, and they let up the grand slam to Lindor because of it. So
they also only scored 1 run in both those games.
Still on the bullpen. Wasn't on Wheeler.
Wasn't on Wheeler, no.
But yeah, that's the NL East. I know that took a shitload of time, rightfully so. I don't know if you guys got anything else, but that's all I got. I'm pretty tired. I'm pretty amped up as well. Predictions of what? We already know who I'm taking.
I guess I'll let Jack go.
Yeah, Jack we should be no predictions, Brian. It should be just Jack who gives predictions on this division.
Oh man.
This is more fun because you really have no skin in the game here, and you hate both of our teams. So
No,
I don't know. Do
I
you
would.
hate the Phillies more than the Mets, or do you hate the Mets more than the Phillies? You don't really care about the Mets, but you definitely hate the Phillies.
I really don't have a lot of hate for any of these teams. Honestly, if we're gonna pick one team I gotta hate on out of this division, it's gonna be the Braves. Uh,
Yeah, I agree.
so
We can all agree on that and get along on that.
yeah, so you know,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with the Mets here, and
Wow.
it's fine.
the only reason is because of the vibes and the way they finished last season and
Grimace is dead, bro.
what they've done this
He's
off
not
season
dead.
to get their team better and more motivated for some of those guys. I just feel like the Mets are trending in the right direction. They have a lot to work on from last year. There are a lot to build on from last year, and then alternatively, I just said it. I think the downfall of the Phils last year was the bullpen. I was going to say the rotation, but I didn't want to keep doing that. It's getting late, ladies and gentlemen, but the bullpen was their downfall last year, and it seems like they're being crazy and running it back with the same glaring issue. I know, it might not be as big of a deal. Maybe they just choked it away. Maybe that won't happen this year, but I'm going to go with the Mets, man. I'm also just a big Juan Soto guy, so give me the Mets.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to be a Juan Soto guy. I mean, he is a great baseball player. Probably, the best player in baseball. I know saying the best in the sport is always up for interpretation, especially a sport like baseball. But truly is, Otani's probably the best player in baseball. What am I talking about?
It'll be a fun year.
It'll be a fun year. We got 162 to go. We're just getting started, but it's Views After Dark. I'm Matt, Jack and Brian, as always. I will catch you all in the next one.
Let's go, Mets. Oh, sorry.
Congrats to the Cavs on clinching the playoff spot.
Already?
Yeah.